Hey there, you're listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion. Here's your host, RJ Carbone.
And a high drive in the left center field. Stanley's going to watch another one fly. Are you kidding me? DiVincenzo a three. Bang! Bang! Knicks take a
Take this time to apologize to absolutely nobody.
At the wall. See ya! See ya! See ya! Mr. Nova.
Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down and the game is tied.
Rose, you shook up the world again.
I did it again. But God did it, man. I really just had
Gonna have to. Brunson running away. Oh my! He has been the best player to put on that uniform.
Ball game over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
Oh man. It's Friday night. Okay, so the Knicks game was on Wednesday. It's Friday the 9th, and I'm still at a loss for words. I don't have words. I mean, words are coming out, but I don't have anything of value to say right off the bat, which is why I waited 2 days, because I didn't have anything. It is 1-0. 1-0 was crazy. The fact that the Knicks are going into 2 home games up 2-0 on a Boston Celtics team that just choked away a gigantic lead 2 consecutive games to start their postseason, that is crazy. These 2 games have been the funnest Knicks games that I've watched. They've been historic, and I don't ever want to hear about last year's team again. All the buzzwords about last year. I don't want to hear about the grit, the toughness, the mental fortitude, and that this team doesn't match that, because that narrative's gone. This team is doing something that I don't think any of us thought they had left from last year. And in just these 2 games alone, it's matched it. Really, it was the Pistons series too. You saw the same type of fight. Not to this degree, but I mean, this is insane. And we're now at a point where we entered this series, okay? And I talked about it on the show. I said, the Knicks are going to lose to this team. I just pray and hope and beg that the series is competitive enough to get to 6 or 7 games. Okay? 6 or 7 games. We're at a point now where the more this team wins, the more terrified I am. Because now up 2-0, you've got the pressure. You're expected to win, unless you look at the Vegas odds. You've got this thing in the palm of your hands. Now you just have to finish them off. The Knicks are right there, folks. We know the numbers up 2-0, but we know the numbers up 3-0. The Knicks are right there. So I've taken these 2 days to just be proud of my basketball team and celebrate as a Knicks fan who's never, especially me at 30 years old, I didn't watch them when I was younger, like in the 90s and the 2000s. No, I hopped on later. I hopped on during Linsanity. That's when I started watching the Knicks. So I never really experienced this. And then you've got the fans who've been watching forever, and they've experienced even more adversity. So let's take a moment to appreciate this ride. And I don't want to hear, like, you're already hearing it. Of course you are. Why would the media give the Knicks any credit? You know, you're already hearing all the casual fans and the angry, emotional NBA fans, all the media, all the pundits. They're all talking about how Boston's beating themselves. The Celtics are choking, this, that. But nobody wants to talk about how good this Knicks team is playing on the defensive end of the floor. I mean, the Knicks, at this point, the Knicks could sweep this Celtics team and they could go on to win a championship, knock on wood, and the narrative would still be, well, you know, the Celtics choked and OKC and Denver didn't play up to standards in the finals. Like, I don't think anything could save the Knicks in terms of their like the media is just never going to respect them. So I took those 2 days to appreciate what the Knicks are doing because I see what they're doing. I can recognize it, and I'm sure all of you Knicks fans can too. But again, this was not an easy one, man. Once again, the Knicks get off to an awfully ugly start. A lot of freelance offense early on. They're not getting into their sets. Nobody seemed like they wanted to score the ball. You know, Bridges had a possession where he doesn't go up strong with it. He's right under the basket. And he had an awful first 3 quarters, but we'll talk about the fourth. OG had a possession where he was under the basket. He didn't even go up. Brunson's touch wasn't there. The Knicks weren't physical enough defensively on the glass. Boston was all over the O boards throughout the game. They were making a conscious effort to change their offense, and we'll talk more about that. Second quarter comes. Towns gives the Knicks a bit of life. He dominates the post, taking advantage of Al Horford. But it's the same overall mental mistakes that have been holding this team back at times. It was bad fouls. It was stupid turnovers, like consecutive turnovers off the inbound from the backcourt, allowing easy offensive rebounds. But somehow the Knicks still managed to stay in the game, down just 9 points, 50-41 at halftime. But the third quarter comes, and you get about the worst stretch of basketball that you're going to see from Karl Anthony Towns. Terrible on both ends, but the defense especially. And the Knicks all of a sudden are down 20 points again late in the period. There's like 2 minutes and change left. They're down 20 points. And then the magic happened. Tibbs makes some lineup decisions, which we'll get into. Mikal Bridges, who entered the fourth quarter with 0 points on 8 shots, poured in 14 points. He knocks down his first 3 shots for the Knicks in the period, cuts it to 13. In the middle of the period, he goes on another 3-basket run when he cuts the deficit to 7. Jalen Brunson, who lacked his touch the entire fourth quarter, pours in 9 points. He hits a big 3 with less than 5 minutes left. He knocks down that fadeaway over Drew Holiday at the 2-minute mark to give the Knicks the lead. And then he has that tough transition finish in traffic with less than a minute left to put the Knicks up 3. You get the Tatum dunk after that where the Knicks weren't ready in transition. He sprints to the rack, dunks it, puts Boston back up. But then Brunson draws contact and knocks down 2 massive free throws to put the orange and blue back up 1 point. And then that's when Tatum gets the ball. Was it blocked or stolen? I think it was stolen, right? He gets the ball stolen from him in the final seconds there on the baseline. It was an insane possession. First of all, if you're Boston, I don't know what they were thinking. The Knicks didn't take Brunson off the floor. He was on the floor. Why, if you're the Celtics, why aren't you attacking the Brunson switch with the Drew Holiday screen there? Instead of putting Brunson into action, Tatum chose to attack OG and Mitch in the pick and roll. And they're two best pick and roll defenders. And so Tatum attacks the Mitchell Robinson switch. Mitch shades him into help on the baseline. OG does a nice job getting in front of Tatum. And then Mikal from behind with a rear contest block or steal takes the ball out of his hands, doing it for his second night in a row. And your Knicks win the game 91-90. So, I mean, that final possession alone was a perfect encapsulation of what this Knicks team has done defensively in these first couple of games here. It's the definition of wingspan. It's the definition of switchability. It's Wingstop. When we talk about Wingstop, that's it. So they win 91-90 in a classic old school battle to go up 2-0 in this series, taking both games at Toronto Dominion Bank. And again, while we can say it because this series is far from over, I'm going to give credit to him again. My head coach, your head coach, our head coach, whether you like it or not, he's here and he's been excellent in these first couple of games. Tibbs coached another elite basketball game on Wednesday. I thought his lineup decisions really stood out positively. In the second quarter of this game, Boston goes to a double big lineup. Okay, so they've got, I think it was Porzingis and Horford in their front. And so the Knicks match that by going double bigs with Mikal Bridges in over Josh Hart. So they don't have too terrible spacing. And that was able to help Towns dominate Horford on the post in that period without worrying about pre-rotations off of Josh Hart. Right? You saw the Knicks run a couple of actions, run pin curls to get Towns those deep post positions. Right? And Mitch is a non-threat, and he was on the floor. But at least Mitchell Robinson's got gravity when he's on the weak dunker since he's an offensive rebounding threat. Right? And you saw in this game, in the second quarter, you saw Karl Anthony Towns get it going from the post because of that. Karl was on the strong post. You had Mitch on the weak dunker. And for that reason, Porzingis, who was on Mitch, couldn't fully commit to the help on the post there on Cat because Mitch was on the dunk. So it's things like that help get Cat going. And you got to credit this head coach for player placement, right? I liked the lineup decision to counter Boston's Horford-Porzingis duo with Mitch and Cat. But I liked the player placement with Mitch, putting him in the right spot on the floor, spacing 101. And I liked seeing Tibbs run a couple of those pin curls on the block to get Mitch in relocation and to get Towns in single coverage there on the post. Late in the third quarter, Mitchell Robinson comes into the game over Towns, and he plays for a while without Towns because Towns had some rough moments there in the third quarter. And just like that, Mitch comes in, Towns comes out, and again, the Knicks go on an immediate run. Early fourth quarter comes, still no Towns. He takes Brunson off the floor as well. It was very risky, But I did like the fact that with Mikal Bridges, the lone scorer on the floor, the Knicks were able to run it through him. And they did exactly that, and he got going. So he enters the fourth again with no points. Brunson and Towns are both off. He's the one they're running offense through. Couple of pick and rolls to attack the drop in mid-range. Elbow entry to get to his left. Couple of big transition threes on the right wing. And then when Brunson came back in, I love the fact that Tibbs kept Mikal Bridges in the game. Didn't pull the plug there. Middle of the fourth quarter, you ran Brunson and the double big lineup. It was so your two best offensive weapons in Brunson and Cat, but you also had switchability, right? There was a moment before Brunson came back in, or I'm sorry. Yeah, it was when Brunson came back in. So you had Cat and Brunson, and then you had Hart, Mikal, and Mitch. So you had double bigs once Cat did come back in. And that was a massive part of that 21-2 run. So that was a smart job there too, in Tom Thibodeau. And a good job by him of getting Mitch in the game for those bonus fouls, right? That was smart play. And then with, 2.5 left in this game, I loved what I saw. There was that one possession. The Knicks are down 4. Excellent action from Tibbs. It's a sideline out of bounds pin in for Brunson. Hart slips the pin in. Brunson goes to Hart on the slip. Really nice play. Now, Hart ends up missing at the basket, but Cat was right there. He tips it in. Gets the M1. I think, again, you go to the defensive end of the floor, and once again, the Knicks were switching everything, and it worked. Now, in this game, Boston took 20 less three-point attempts than they did in the first game, but they were still only knocking down 25%, and they still, yes, there were some open looks, but there were still a lot of low-quality looks because the Knicks were switching it. The Celtics did adjust early on in this game to those switches. There was a lot more 2-point attempts, drives, and post-ups off the switch to take advantage of it. Bully ball in isolation. You had Brown overpowering Josh Hart. You had Drew Holiday bodying up Mikal Bridges, sometimes Brunson. And the Knicks, I just think they need to live with that and just hold up better on those ISOs, right? They weren't sending help, which is okay because you want to stay out of rotation. That's the point of this. You just need to be more physical, right? They were getting beat on the glass early on, offensive glass, and that's partially because they're not in drop with their bigs. They're switching their fives on the perimeter. They were also crashing with Brunson's man. But, yeah, there were definitely some interesting moments as you went along here that need cleaning up. In the first half, you had a couple of pick and pops there with Brunson. You thought he was hard hedging, and he winds up switching it anyway. So it led to open looks. Like late in the first quarter, I think there's like 3 minutes left or something. It's a Jaylen Brown, Derek White pick and pop. Brunson hedges to Brown, but he doesn't recover. Leaves Derek White open for 3. Josh Hart closes late to him. So it's like you either have to switch or commit to the hedge and recover. So that happened a couple of times. And then the third quarter was odd. It was a brutal third quarter, very, very brutal, at least at the top of the third, where the Knicks stopped auto-switching their fives on. And you had the Celtics out there running ram screen actions and Spain pick and roll. So that was forcing Towns to go back into drop coverage on those Tatum pick and rolls early. And he was getting absolutely obliterated on like 3 consecutive possessions. They started attacking Brunson in Spain. So, you saw some rough moments there, but overall, I still thought the Knicks produced good results with, their switch all defense. And, I've been thinking about that. Tibbs took a lot of shit in the regular season. In particular, these games against the Boston Celtics, for defaulting to drop coverage on a team that loves to pull up from 3 and not adopting and not adjusting to a switch everything defense. In the regular season, Tibbs was primarily drop coverage. That was his base. I'm starting to think, there was a little bit of switching towards the end of those those last couple of games against Boston, but I am starting to think maybe he was just trying not to show his hand. Because remember, this Knicks team was built for this Celtics team specifically. That's the point of the moves they made last summer. So I wouldn't be shocked if Tibbs didn't want to fully go to a switch everything against the Celtics in the regular season just because he was waiting and he wanted to throw Boston off with a different look. And all of a sudden he did that, and they do look like they're shaken up a bit and they don't know how to react to this. That's exactly how it looks to me. So I think that's something that's important to notice. But yeah, that's where I just wanted to point. I just wanted to point out that I thought Tom Thibodeau coached another great game. Lineups, decisions, coverages, schemes. Towns. You go to Towns, and I think you have to give him the game ball. You could go to Josh Hart, who was excellent, but I'm going to go to Towns. At least from the first unit, Towns gets the game ball. 21 points, 17 rebounds, shoots 56% in 35 minutes. Yeah, 24 game balls now in the season, 3 in the postseason. Again, he had his moments. He had some more bad reads from the post. He had a couple of awful turnovers there and some bad defensive possessions. But overall, I still thought Cat did more good than bad. He was massive in that second quarter with the 10 points. Kind of gave the Knicks a little life after they lost it. He was all over the glass in the first 3 quarters of the game. And then again, he has that big rebound for the tip-in the fourth quarter there to pull the Knicks within 1 after he knocks down the free throw for the N1. He was great. We need this to be a consistent thing. Right? And Towns' mixed bag this postseason isn't totally on Towns. It's not all on him. The Knicks have to do a better job of finding consistency for him. They have to find him 3-point reps, right? Right now, the Boston Celtics are switching wingspan to Jalen Brunson to shrink the floor because Hart's out there, and they're not reacting at all to Josh Hart's role. They're shading off of him with their big to bring help behind the primary defender that's on Brunson. So if Hart rolls, that's completely ignored. If he pops, then so be it. They don't care because he's not a threat above the break. And they're completely ignoring Hart on Brunson and Hart actions. So Brunson brings in Hart to screen. They're either going to double the pick and roll on Jalen, or they're going to drop the big off of the Hart screen. So it's causing a lot of floor shrinking, and it's just not efficient offense for your half-court offense. It's they're continuing to put the wing and sometimes the small on Towns, and the Knicks still haven't solved this. That's probably Tibbs' only true issue this series is this. They took advantage of it a little bit better in this game, on the glass. Cat did some things with this. Hart, I thought, did a nice job punishing the open space. He scored 23 points. He took 6 3-point attempts, knocked down 3. But it's not, again, it's we always say it's not what Hart's doing. It's what he can't do anything about. Well, he can't. He could shoot more, but it's his presence that he could have. He could have a game like he did where he was excellent, but it's Josh Hart's presence that is still going to hurt the Knicks in the half court sometimes, right? It causes issues for the Knicks on their primary actions. You saw there was a possession in the second quarter. Towns is on the post. Hart's on the weak wing. And it led to bad results because they're going to completely ignore him when he's on the weak wing, and he's not close enough to the basket to where he can be effective, so that help is going to go to Cat. Which is, again, that's why Mitch has much more gravity when he's off the ball than Josh Hart does, because you can put Mitch on the dunker for an offensive rebound. But overall, I do think the Knicks have got to find offense for Towns on the three-point line, because right now, him taking 2 threes this series and one of them being a half-court heave at the end of the clock, that's unacceptable. You built this team to shoot threes. You brought this guy in here to shoot threes. You can't run those Town pick and pop threes when he's got the wing on him, because the defense will switch it. And when he's got the 5 on him, you don't run the 1-5 pick and pop enough, so he's not getting looks. There's no playbook for him. There are not nearly enough actions being ran for Towns, who's your best three-point shooter. Those pin curls with Mitch in the second quarter, spam that. Use Mitch to screen for Towns even to get those three-point looks. Flare screen actions, those cross screens and wedge screens that you've been going to at the top of these games. Spam those more. There are things they can do, but it just doesn't seem like Tibbs is comfortable in doing it for whatever reason. So that's the only critique there. It's just the only thing that Tibbs has done a terrible job of this postseason is finding reps for his best three-point shooter. And that's crazy in this era. But I love what I'm seeing from Mitchell Robinson. You know, Mitch, I'm going to hand him the game ball from the second unit, because I thought he was fantastic in this game. Final numbers for him: 6 points, 8 rebounds, 3 steals. Shot 60%. He was 5 of 7. Obviously, you need him to knock down those free throws, but he has still been remarkable this series. He's been their best player in these 2 games, creating space by screening for Brunson and screening for Deuce McBride and screening for Mikal Bridges. He's been rebounding very well. And the defense, right? He has been switching onto wings and switching onto guards, and he's been holding his own much more than I thought he was capable of doing. He's been moving really well, right? There was a possession in the first quarter where he switches onto Peyton Pritchard, chases him to the other side on the perimeter, ends up stealing the ball from him. And obviously you get the fourth quarter switch on Tatum where he shades him into help. And he's been doing this all series. And it's so much better watching Mitch when he's not in a drop coverage against this team. Because when Mitch is in drop against pick and pop offenses, we know what can happen. But having Mitch show that he can hold his own on a switch is very promising. And it's yielded some really good defensive results so far this postseason against the Celtics. So 10 game balls on the year, but it's his 4th already this playoffs for Mitchell Robinson. Now, with that said, that's all we got. We're going to end this here in just a few minutes. So we're going to head to a break, get back, and we'll wrap this one up with our trivia question of the day. Stay with us here on episode 861 of the podcast, BD4. BD4 is available on social media for those who want to follow. You can find BD4 on Instagram at BD4Pod. You can find us on X at BD4Pod. And you can find us on Facebook by simply searching BD4. Hey guys, just a quick reminder, this podcast is also available in video format on YouTube. So be sure to go over to the YouTube channel, BD4, subscribe, like the videos, comment and tell me how much I suck or maybe how much you like the video. We'd very much appreciate it. Don't have time to sit down and watch a video? You can listen to BD4 on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And you can also watch the video format on Spotify too. If you feel like supporting the podcast, you can Venmo at Robert-Carbone-JR-28. We really appreciate your support. Do you enjoy Yankees baseball but are tired of hearing me yap? I have a suggestion for you. Go check out Yankee Crazy Podcast. Greg Gill is a Yankees podcaster on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and he's now selling merch. Go to yankeecrazy.myshopify.com. Stay connected with us. Visit BD4blog.com to explore our blog, tune into our latest podcasts, and follow us on social media. Thank you for being a part of this community. Okay, let's get to it. All right, let's get to it here in episode 861 of the podcast. Our trivia question for this show: what was the score of the series in the first playoff meeting between the Knicks and Celtics? The first ever. All right, and your hint is that it was a best-of-3 series. So what was the series score in the first ever playoff meeting between the Knicks and Celtics? Your hint is that it was a 3-game series, or best out of 3 series. That's it. Appreciate you all tuning in. What a win for the Knicks. 2-0 in the series. Got a lot more to go. They cannot screw this up. Okay, the Knicks 1,000% need to go back home, and at the very worst, they have to split. That's all. Just go 1-1 in your next 2 games, and then we'll go from there. You don't need to sweep this team, okay? That would sound crazy, but I'm telling you, man, you cannot just be happy and lay back on your laurels, because there is no such thing as momentum in the postseason. I truly believe that. I think come postseason time, every game is totally different. It's funny saying that now because of what happened these last 2 games, but I don't think it's connected like that sometimes. I think it can be totally different, and I think a change of scenery can help a team that's been struggling. So the Knicks have got to be careful now, because they're the ones with the pressure now. And just one more. I just need one more in this next, homestand here, and then we'll talk about later. But let's get the job done tomorrow. Let's see what happens. Go Knicks. Buck Floston, as always. See you soon. Well, if you made it this far, that means you listened to or watched the entire episode. Thank you. Just remember to follow, subscribe, download, rate and review, and all that fun stuff to help out the podcast. And I will see you in the next episode of BD4.